And in order to discern between the good and bad and to protect ourselves both as individuals and as a society, we developed morals that give society a certain standard which determines what's good and what's bad for the individual and for society. What do we need this kind of standard for? Don't we intuitively know what's good, what's bad, what's good for us, and what should we distance ourselves from? No, when a person's born, he doesn't have these rules inside of him. They don't reside in him, they don't awaken in him. He just knows, like an animal, what's good or bad for his body, what we see on babies, on little children. If it's good for him, he runs around. Good for him, he sits down or plays. The child always does what's good for him, bodily wise. When he becomes a part of society, when he grows up a bit, suppose at the ages of 6, 7, 8, and so on, meaning he starts interacting with other children, he starts differentiating that there are new relations here, that he can't only listen to his body, but he also has to listen to what does the body of the other person say and the other people by listening to what their bodies tell them and by becoming included in that and taking into consideration what they think bodily wise for my benefit, which is maybe against what I want, that for him this is good, but for me something else is better. But if I hear what's good for that other person, if I want to help him or be nice to him, I want to get closer to him or not, by that I start building morals. What are morals based on? That I listen to the body of the other person. And then, if I put the body of the other above my own body in a certain manner for a certain moment, then maybe we call that a moral action, even though that it could be completely immoral. Of course, it's for my own benefit. Why am I listening? Why do I take that person into consideration? Maybe otherwise I'll get beat up, or I'll feel bad, or maybe I'll benefit something special that I myself can't get. I'll feel good as a result, but one way or another, taking the body of the other into consideration is called morals. Taking my own body into consideration is called nature. When we're talking about morals, there are two aspects. The personal aspect are a person's inner feelings. What's good, what's bad. It's a kind of a dialogue with his conscience. There's no conscience. That's just talk. Either I listen to my body purely, the way things come from nature, suppose, were I able to discern that? Or I listen to my body to what comes from nature, but got different other discernments on the way, that this is good and this is bad and this is worthwhile and this isn't. Anything which is above, beyond nature that we take into consideration, we can call morals. And that depends on education. Education is also a part of it. Anything that a person gets in addition above nature is called morals. Should we make moral people? Is it something good, beneficial for society? I do not ascribe good or bad to morals. But it's all relative. What's good for some can be bad for others. So it's moral for someone and the very opposite for someone else. There's also a social aspect to it, that it's a kind of a social convention about what proper behavior is, which arranges the proper right relations between man and society and man. So looking at this aspect, from this point of view, should we invest in building a moral society? Again, I don't know what you mean by a moral society. There's no such thing as ideal. Suppose we'll take people that say that it's forbidden to eat animals, and others say, no way, you can eat animals. Of course, you have to kill them. carefully so they won't feel it, but we kill them in a good way that they don't feel it. Suppose like kosher slaughtering, and we eat animals because man was created such that he has to eat animals. We hear about it, we read about it, also from our sources, and someone else says, that's immoral. How can you kill an animal? What are you doing? You're raising it in order to kill it. It seems terrible. If someone from another planet would see what we're doing, you're raising cows, and then you take them to some place and you kill them. And you chop up their meat and divide it, and people eat it and are joyous. How can you explain that? Is that moral or not? So who determines? Good. So there's no such thing that this is morally good and this is morally bad, but everything's relative. Also, when we say a moral society, the Nazis, they wanted to build their society as a very exalted society, moral society that connects itself with higher forces. And what they did with their new take on life, as if with their new religion and everything. So, what did they do? They also justified all of their actions regarding the Jews and the rest of the nations of the world, that they are building a morally superior society, better than everyone else. And now I see that we're advancing again towards that same state, that humanity is starting to divide itself into these and those. There was a period during which the UN and UNESCO were built, and after 10 years it went completely rotten and it became a showcase. Can we build a society that won't only benefit itself, like that Nazi society, but a society that will be good to itself, but also to other societies? So we'll be able to live in a state of good. Impossible, because human nature is their ego. People think only for their own benefit about everything. And a person can't think any other way, even that now it seems to us that we'll discuss something objectively disconnected from the ego. We can't. It'll just be an illusion. We can't get out of the ego. And to build something which is beyond our narrow boundaries, suppose. For example, the World Wisdom Council, they'll sit together, and I'm a part of the World Wisdom Council. We have hope that I left, because there's nothing to do there. So humanity is doomed? No, I'm saying that as long as we're in our nature, egoistic nature, yes, we can't determine anything good or correctly. We'll always determine morals according to our nature. If we'll change our nature, then we'll start determining our morals, our ways of conduct according to our new nature. And then we will rise to the upper moral. Can you explain that? If we change our nature, then we'll rise to the upper morals? Yes, according to our new qualities. So if you can explain this process. You're saying that human nature is egoistic, thinking only about yourself, and every society determines their own morals, serving their own interests. So how can we get out of this loop? I asked you then we're doomed? You said no. No, we have hope. What's the hope? If we change our nature, we'll rise to higher morality. What is that? First of all, we have to understand this is called the phase of the recognition of evil, that our nature is egoistic and our thoughts, desires, however we twist them, we're inside this ball, inside this nature, being entirely concerned only with myself. I desire to delight myself. That's it. And regardless the kind of calculations that I make, the relations that I have with whomever, with whatever, subconsciously, I'll always turn it in my favor. Always. Otherwise, I won't see colors, won't hear sounds, won't see faces, unless I examine how good or maybe how bad it could be for me. Meaning, I discern everything that influences me from the outside only with respect to my ego. Is it good or bad for me? My sensor, my sense called the will to enjoy, understands only that. Am I enjoying or suffering? And upon that, I build my thoughts, where or whatever I turn to, my different calculations, upon is it good or bad for me. My ideals are also built on that. On the inside, I feel that everything is directed at delight or suffering. This is what I internally feel. And upon that, there are different calculations and discernments, but they're all based on whether it's good or bad for me, both on the individual and also on the social level, like the example you gave with the Nazis. Yeah. Only there are additional laws in the same direction, but additional laws. For example, with an individual, were an individual maybe ashamed of being a Nazi, but when such people connect, they justify it easily, necessarily. But these are additional matters. It's the matter of the individual and the collective. So, only if we change man's original nature, original meaning deep, deep inside of him, where a person feels everything only in terms of good and bad for me, if we change that nature such that I'll feel, is it good or bad outside of me, because there's me, and what's outside of me? The environment, the still vegetative anima, the universe, doesn't matter what else we'll discover. If I will make a kind of a body out of myself that does not take itself into consideration, but what's outside of it, then I can relate to what's outside of me in a way that is free of myself, independent of my ego, of my will to receive, to enjoy. And then, after that, I can bring myself to a state where I relate to what's outside of me in a good way, to really do good to others. Not that I'll feel good if I cause them good, but I'm thinking only about causing them good, without any calculation for myself. And this is the higher moral that you're talking about? Yes. And this is the kind of moral that all of us have to come to, and our society as a whole.